How y'all doing today? My name is Wayne. I'm with the Food Trust and Nutrition Educator. I'm glad to see y'all back again at the farmer's market to do another recipe demo. Today's recipe is ginger carrots. Before we get started, I want to go over a few cooking points before we get started. And always remember, you want to wash your hands in soap and water. If you don't have soap and water, then always use hand sanitizer. It's very important that we always, when we're making cooking for especially other people, we want to make sure that we are clean because we're going to be handling other people's food. The second thing is that you want to make sure that you have a sharp knife. And the reason that you want a sharp knife will allow us to be able to cut the vegetables and fruits without damaging the fruits or vegetables. It makes it a little bit more smoother and takes the rough edge out of it. So a sharp knife is always better. And always remember that when you are using fruits and vegetables, always wash your fruits and vegetables and wipe them dry. Even though we want to skin this carrot, we still want to wash it, and then I'll demonstrate a little bit later how we're going to skin that carrot, but you still want to wash that carrot. And the third thing you want to make sure you always do, you always want to have an uncluttered working environment. And for each of us is different. So what I usually do, I usually put all of the foods that I'm going to use, like in the recipe, I put that on one side, and then on the other side, they put the stuff such as a hand sanitizer, the napkin, I put that on the other side. The goal for that is actually to be able to move and work a lot more smoother and to be organized as we are doing the work. Our recipe today is ginger carrots, and as you can see here, it calls for 2 cups of carrots that we have sliced here, 2 cups of water, lemon juice, ginger. In fact, we're using fresh grated ginger that you'll see here in a minute, and then a little salt and honey and margarine. And of course, the margarine that we use, we always want to find no salt or low salt margarine. And we always want to make sure that there is, for health purposes, we want to make sure that there is no trans fat in it. We want to not find, or probably it would be better to use margarine that is low in fat and low in sugar for this recipe or for all recipes. We already started the recipe, as I said earlier. What we start with is 2 cups of carrots, and we already poured the 2 cups of water into the pot here, as you can see. And if you don't have one of these pots at home, you can always use a basic pot. And what you want to do, if you use a basic pot, you want to cook the carrots. You don't want the carrots too soft, but you want them hard enough, because the carrots are too soft. Then when you put it in the salad dressing, it will be turned into mush. So make sure that you keep your eye on the textures of the carrot and not let the carrot become too mushy. And so we already put that everything in there, and so I will give you a quick demonstration in terms of how we clean the carrots. And one of the things that certainly you want to do, you want to take the shell off, or the skin off the carrot. And in order to do that, it's a simple process. You want to do that. Even though we're removing the skin, you still, like I said earlier, you still always want to clean your fruits and vegetables. And once you begin to clean, we have already done that. As you see here, we have 2 cups already in the fryer there. And while we are making the carrots, or allowing the carrots to cook, what we generally do is start making the salad dressing while the carrots are cooking. Okay, once we clear the carrots in terms of the skin, you always want to cut the carrots not straight, you want to cut them on an angle. And the reason that we want to cut the carrots on an angle is that it allows for the carrots to cook evenly, it allows for the carrots to cook quicker. I'll give you a quick demonstration. If we cut it like that, the carrot is too thick, and because the carrot is too thick like that, we can run into the risk of having some of the carrots not all the way done. So you always want to cut it on a slant, or they call it diagonally. And then doing that, make sure that you want to try to, as best you can, make sure that the cuts are even. You don't want a fat cut versus a thin cut. You want to try to uniform the cut for the carrot. Okay? And that's, again, what you'll see here. And then we use the ginger, and what we do, we always want to use fresh ginger. And what you want to do is you want to take the ginger and whatever, if you have in your home, hopefully you will have a grinder that you can grind it with, and just grind some of the ginger off, because it only calls for a very limited amount of ginger. This is much too much for us, and I'll give you a demonstration here in a minute. This recipe calls for no more than that amount of ginger. Now, once we separate the ginger and the carrots, we shredded the carrots, then we're going to start with making what we call the salad dressing. We call it salad dressing because it's what we're going to use to put the carrots in. And what the salad dressing calls for is honey, lemon juice, as we mentioned earlier, margarine. And what we do is we take a spoon of lemon juice, honey. We put 2 tablespoons of honey, it calls for, yes, and I'm aware of that. And and again, remember, when you are making this at home, you want to make it to your Pacific taste. We're making it here because it's out in the public. So you may want to trade it off if you don't like carrots. You might want to change carrots, say, for apples maybe. Apples is another good source for fiber. But again, remember, if you're going to use apple, the strongest part of the fiber of the apple is actually in the skin. So you want to keep that skin in there if you're going to use the apple. Then a little bit of margarine, and again, the margarine you want to use is no salt, or if you have to, low salt. Just take a teaspoon of that, put it in your bowl. The element is that you want to make sure that as you're cooking your carrots, that your carrots have to be not only done, but you want them hot enough, because putting the hot carrots on top of the salad dressing is what's actually going to melt the butter and melt the honey, and you're going to mix them up so that it becomes actually a glaze for the carrots, okay? We cook the carrots for close to like maybe 9-10 minutes, and normally that's enough. And as we said when we first began, we already had the carrots on, and so they're about ready. So what you do once the carrots are done, always you want to test them for the texture, make sure they are soft and not too hard, but make sure they're not too mushy. You don't want to actually use the juice that's in there from the water. So you want to drain, as you're pulling the carrots out, you want to drain the waters out from it. And you just want to really put in there so that it can, and you want to put the carrots in there while they're hot. Because the hotter naturally the carrots, then a greater chance that the honey and the butter will melt evenly. And then we just stir it up, mix it. The goal is this is a ginger carrot glaze is what we're making. And the goal is to be able to get a glaze so that the glaze will be able to cover all of the carrots. And what I like to do is let the glaze soak just a little bit into the carrot so that the glaze actually becomes the part of the carrot. So when we taste the carrot, that we actually taste the glaze and not just the carrot by itself. And there you have our recipe for the day, ginger carrots. And carrots are good because carrots can be left in the refrigerator for at least a month. And the ginger is good because ginger you can freeze. If you don't use all the ginger that you may pick up at the farmer market here, you can always freeze the ginger and it can stay in the freezer for a long period of time. Another thing I want to mention is before we close out, and I want to thank you again for being here with us today, is you may not want to use fresh carrots. If you choose to use canned carrots, that's good too. But remember, if you're going to use canned carrots, you always want to rinse the canned carrots out. You want to drain the juice and run cold water into the can. And they say, suggest that it would reduce at least 45% of the sodium that's in the carrot. So always remember that. You can trade that off. And if you choose not, if not cans, then maybe you want to use frozen carrots. Frozen carrots are just as good. Frozen carrots is good because, as you know, frozen carrots are frozen immediately after they come off the line, and so therefore they retain their nutrition and vitamin value quickly. And so it's almost close as having a fresh carrot. So if you can't get fresh carrots, go either frozen carrots or canned carrots. And thank you again for being out. I'm Wayne from the nutrition educator from the Food Trust, and I will see you next week at the next farmers market, and it's always good to see you.